Welcome to the Curiosity Podcast, a show about everything e-commerce and digital business. The aim is simple, to help you thrive online. And now, your host, Matt Edmundson.
Hello and welcome, my fellow e-commerce entrepreneurs. My name is Matt Edmundson, and this show is for those of us who are curious about e-commerce and want to know how to get better at doing digital business. Now, coming up in today's show, we are addressing the all-important topic of content marketing. Yeah, it's going to be big. It's important, right? Because I think content marketing sets the tone for your brand and it can have a huge impact on the bottom line, that's for sure. So make sure you stay with me throughout the whole show as we learn how to create valuable, relevant, and consistent content to drive traffic and generate leads and sales for our e-commerce businesses, okay? As always, I will put up show notes and all the links that we use on the website at mattedmundson.com. Just head on over there and head to episode number 17. Can you believe we're on episode number 17? It's just flying by. I mean, technically, it's still a very brand new podcast. And if you're new to the show, I definitely want to give a big shout out to you. We are getting lots of new listeners each week, which is great. It's good to see the stats are always going up. It's because it is a new show, although we are on episode number 17, which is a bit mind-boggling for me. But anyway, enough said about that. Before we get into the meat and potatoes, if you like, of this show, I just want to give a shout out to the show's sponsor, the amazing Kurious Digital. It's an experience-based e-commerce platform that I use to run and grow my own e-commerce businesses, right? So if you are looking for a new platform, if you're looking to upgrade your website, your e-commerce site, then do check it out at kurious.digital. That's Kurious with a K and not with a C. It is a fab platform. The guys are continually developing it and moving it forward. I get to see the development list and what's coming out next. There's some great stuff, let me tell you. And they've just released some really great features. So do check it out. It's really worth having a look at. Okay. Shall we jump into it? Let's jump into it. Content marketing. So before we start off, it's worth saying, right, that creating and sharing valuable and relevant content is these days considered like one of the foundational elements to having a good e-commerce website. Okay. Your content, I was having a conversation earlier, your content is one of the key ways I think you can differentiate yourselves from some of the bigger sites like Amazon, because they can't be you. They can't put your brand voice on things, right? They can't create the content that you can create. So it's essential. It's critical, I think, if you really, really want to skyrocket your e-commerce business. Now, let me tell you right at the start, it's more than just about, and this is what I've discovered, right? Content marketing is not just about putting any old thing on your website, doing social media posts well, writing a blog post and doing some videos. I've seen companies do that a lot, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it has to be more than that, right? So let me say this right at the start. Content marketing for you has got to be a strategy, right? That you as a business carefully consider and implement, okay? Because it's going to take effort. It's not something you just do once. Consistency, as we'll learn, is the key. So you've really got to make sure you can do this and stay on top of it. Now, the benefits of doing content marketing, I think everyone has heard of and come across in some way, right? Which is maybe why you're listening to the show. You've heard about this idea of content marketing. You've tried it a little bit. How can you do it better? You know it's a good thing to do, right? The key thing for me that content marketing does, the key word is engagement. That's what it is all about. It's about engagement and resonating with your customers. And the better you engage, the more customers you get, the better you engage, the higher your conversion rates. So, you know, the benefits for these things go on and on and on and on. So let me define a couple of terms, because not all content marketing is the same. There are, in effect, two key phrases that I hear a lot, and that is outbound marketing and inbound marketing. So you've got outbound content marketing and inbound content marketing. Outbound is where you go and shout out and try and grab people's attention. It's usually short, snappy, easily digestible content. It's designed to disrupt the reader and offer them value that they aren't necessarily looking for, right? It can be dangerously close to this whole concept of spam. So we have to be very clear on what is advertising and what is spam, what is interruption and disruption, what is annoying, outrageous, and spammy, and you need to be slapped for. But that's what outbound content marketing is. Inbound content marketing is where you actually try and make yourself more discoverable by people who are searching around a problem. So, for example, on the Jersey site, the skincare website that we have, we will do content around the problems that people are searching for online to do with their skin. For example, how do I solve dry skin, or how do I deal with open pores, and so on and so forth, okay? So this is where we create what we call content gold, really great content that people discover, and it wins consumers over and they keep coming back because we've been really helpful and given them some great content, okay? This is much more of a medium to long-term strategy. Inbound marketing rarely is short-term, let me tell you. But medium to long-term, this can really win out. And it's also where longer content is better. So outbound tends to be short, snappy content. Inbound, longer content actually can be better because consumers are looking for it, and they're quite happy to dedicate the time to read and to learn, okay? So we've got to give them that information, really high valuable content, answering the questions, not necessarily holding stuff back, but giving them valuable content, right? So how do we do that, Matt? It's great. How do we create valuable, relevant, and consistent content, you ask? Well, I think we'll get into that after the news. So let's take a quick break now. We'll do the news, and then I'm going to come back and look at the 4 steps that I take to do content marketing. We are now going to take a few minutes to stop, pause, and review this week's e-commerce news.
Hi, Matt.
Hey, how are we doing?
We are doing well today.
Are you sure?
Yes, we are.
Good.
Getting better all the time.
That's the main thing. So what we got this week?
Luxury brands.
Okay.
So I was reading this article on the drum.
The drum?
Not like, playing the drums, but
okay. A site called the drum.
Yeah.
Okay.
And according to stats, just 9% of all luxury sales, good sales, are made online.
9%? It's quite low, eh?
Yeah. So they're selling higher value products, but to a smaller pool of people.
Okay.
Right? And what they are doing, or what they do well in their bricks and mortar stores, is the personalization aspect. Like, they're really good at that.
Yeah.
And trying to translate that onto e-commerce is not always easy, but they do have the resources to do it. So I guess, like, for smaller e-commerce businesses who don't have the resources, but we know from last week's podcast just how important personalization is for a e-commerce site. So what are your thoughts as far as what can small businesses learn from luxury brands, even though they don't have a massive amount of presence, but what they do really well?
Yeah, there's a whole podcast episode dedicated to this when we talked with, do you remember Casey?
I do.
Because she was talking about selling luxury products online. And the way you do this is, I think, with just insane levels of customer service. And so you have to figure out for your customer base what that service is going to look like, right? And what it is they want and what it is they need, and how you can give them that in a digital space, in a digital format. I think that's the complicated bit, because it's why only 9% of the total luxury brand sales are done online, right? Because it's not actually straightforward. But because only 9% are currently online, I think it's a great opportunity if you've got the ability to think that through. And I would say, if that's you, if you're doing luxury brands, then definitely check out Casey's podcast. I can't remember what episode it is, but if you look on the website, it'll be there.
Cool. Carrying on with our whole concept of personalization. Item number 2 is about e-commerce in China.
Okay.
And we know that China is dominating the e-commerce world.
Yes.
Simply because they have so many mobile users in China.
Yeah.
But they're like the e-commerce giant Alibaba. It's massive. And one of the things that they've done really well is that they've categorized their products really well so that when users go on their website, they know exactly where they need to be to get what they want and all that. So they do that really well. Is there anything that we could take from that?
Oh, that's a good, well, if you, like you say, turn it into personalization, just making sure your navigation works super well, that people can find out where things are on the website really easily. I think that's always super, super helpful. I'm not saying you're going to become Alibaba if you do that. That would be nice. But, you could definitely learn from that whole categorization thing. And the search thing, making sure search works well, especially if you've got a large catalog, a large list of items. The bottom rule is this, right? How quickly can you get the product that the customer is looking for in front of them? And the quicker you can do that, the higher the chance you've got of selling that product, right? Usually, I know someone listening is going to go, well, what about? No, but usually it's all about, people are on websites, they want to find what it is they're looking for and they want to find it fast. And the faster and easier you can do that, the higher your conversion is going to be.
Right. And also, I guess the categorization is great if you're just browsing as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Both ways.
It does totally.
Okay. Item number 3.
Yep.
Top products to sell online according to Shopify.
Oh,
all right.
Okay.
So I'm going to read them out to you.
Well, hang on a minute. So this is top products according to, so Shopify have given a list of the best-selling products through Shopify websites.
Yeah.
Okay, this would be interesting.
All right.
Let me guess. Can I guess one of them?
Yeah.
Jewelry.
Yes.
Is that on there?
It is on there, but not just any kind of jewelry, minimalist jewelry.
Okay. I have no idea what minimalist jewelry is, but okay. I guess I could go away and research.
Opposite of costume jewelry. Which you probably don't know what that is.
No.
Or do you? Okay, let's just move on.
I don't really wear jewelry. Can I guess what else is on the list?
Yeah.
Would watches come under jewelry?
Maybe.
Is it on the list?
Smartwatches.
Smartwatches are on the list. Yeah, I should have maybe put the words. There's definitely watches, jewelry. These are just the standard go-to Shopify websites. There'll be some kind of clothing items on there, I would have thought. And there'll be some kind of, some kind of gadget type, fidget spinner type thing. Is that on there?
Pet grooming?
That's definitely not a gadget.
It was a gadget.
I should have guessed pets. Pets are always going to sell a lot. Okay, so what is actually on the list?
Shapewear, number 1.
Okay, so shapewear is number. This is clothing that contours the human body by squashing it in parts that it shouldn't be squashed in and expanding it in parts it shouldn't.
Basically.
Okay, this is cool because this is in my head. This is quite Elizabethan, Victorian style trends that have not expired yet.
Yeah.
Okay, shapewear, cool. We don't sell shapewear online, but it's interesting that it's number 1. Maybe we should, on our beauty website, get some shapewear products. Okay.
Pet grooming.
To self. Pet grooming. Okay. We have guinea pigs. I don't think we groom them though. But pet grooming as in just brushing the fur off your dog.
I suppose.
Okay.
I wasn't so interested in that one either.
It's fascinating, but I imagine this is quite skewed by America, and America spends disproportionately more on its pets than anywhere else in the known world. So I assume pet products are actually quite a good product to sell in the States. Okay, what's number 3?
Athleisure.
Athleisure clothing.
Oh, leisure. Sorry.
I'll translate this one. Athleisure. We'll make a Brit out of you yet. Okay, so that's just like sports clothing, which again is all super trendy. Yeah, okay, cool.
All right, you ready for this one?
Sure.
A bathroom stool.
Okay.
Not for...
a bathroom stool?
Yeah.
As in a stool you sit on?
No, actually.
It's not a stool you sit on?
No.
What kind of stool is it?
It's...
How many other stools are there?
Well, you can have stools for standing on to make kids a bit taller.
Oh, okay.
You can have stools for sitting on, like at the kitchen counter.
Okay.
But this is a bathroom stool to help people with their constipation.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh. If you are struggling with constipation, I'm really sorry. I should not have left out loud. I was not expecting that. So a bathroom stool that helps with constipation.
Yes.
Oh, the irony of calling it a stool, right? A stool to remove the stool. Is that what it's called? That should be that's a great website.
And get this. This was, I thought, the best part. That some of them even come with an air freshener.
Okay.
I thought that was good.
I have no idea. Do you know what? No, don't tell me what these things look like. I'm going to go and Google it later. I'm really curious to see what that is. Okay. Number 4 is a stool to remove stools. Nice. Okay. .com. Hey, if anyone's listening and they register that domain and make $1 million out of it, just remember where you first heard it. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
Pet bed.
Pet bed is number 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
that's a bit boring, but okay.
Yeah. Smartwatches. We've already talked about that. Yeah. Minimalist jewelry.
That's number 7. Okay. I'm counting.
Okay. Dish racks.
Dish racks. Dish racks.
So I guess for people who don't use dishwashers.
As in, when you're doing the washing up, you put your plate or your bowl on a rack to dry.
Yeah, I think so.
That's one of the best-selling items. Okay. That has surprised me. I would never have thought, you know what, I'm going to set up a business selling dish racks. How many different types I suppose there's wooden ones, plastic ones, metal ones. Jeez. Okay. I'm not going to do that business.
No, please don't.
For sure. Yeah, no. Okay.
Okay. Number 9, safety shoes. I don't know why this is on here.
But not safety shoes. Okay. I actually own a pair of safety shoes. You need them.
Or when you're, when? When do you need them?
Oh, for when you're doing stuff in the yard, I like to do woodwork as like a hobby. So when I'm using woodworking machinery, carrying stuff, heavy stuff. So the shoes have got steel in the toes and underneath. So if you stand on a nail, it doesn't go in your foot and doesn't squash your foot. My
husband's got safety shoes. He has to wear them at work.
Oh, okay. Not just when he's at home. It's not something you want to reveal.
No, not at home.
Okay.
All right, moving on to number 10. Posture corrector.
Now, I have definitely seen a lot more adverts for these recently.
So are they like a vest?
Yeah, well, they're all very different, aren't they?
This thing that you wrap around and
they
Velcro it on?
Because we're all sat at computers all day, so we're all becoming more and more round-shouldered. And so they use these posture correctors to pull your shoulders back. And so just it's like they all come in different shapes and sizes. I find them quite uncomfortable, personally. But yeah, I've tried a few on, but yeah, it's to open up the chest and stretch back the shoulders. I don't know how effective they are. I just know that they sell a lot of them. I don't know if any science is behind it. I don't even know if any studies have been on it, actually. That would be a really interesting one. I just know people sit at the desk, get back pain and think, I've got a bad posture, therefore I'll buy this for $30 and it will help me. Whether it does or not, I don't know. If you've got one and you like it and it's helped you, let me know. Because I'd be curious. I'm just interested to find out. Is that it?
That is it.
So we finished the news?
We are.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
That's the news. So now let's get back to it. Okay, so that's the news. Let's get into the 4 steps that I want to cover in this particular podcast around content marketing. You appreciate I could spend hours on this topic. I'm not going to. I just want to give you 4 quick areas to think about that will help you on your journey to creating some great content, stuff that I've discovered and figured out along the way, right? And the very first thing, I appreciate this sounds crazily obvious, but every time I've come across people that have struggled with content marketing, it's because they haven't taken the time to define their content marketing strategy. Okay, so that's the first step. You have got to define what your content marketing strategy is before you even start investing any of your precious time or energy into content. You need to have a very clear, measurable content goals in place. Knowing where you are, where you want to be, will give you a clear sense of direction, and it can help you create a great content schedule. You start to be deliberate with the content that you create. I cannot begin to tell you how many times people have sort of gone off and it's written 1 or 2 blog posts because they've heard about content marketing and then they've run out of ideas and then the content stops. and they go and try something else, right? It's just one of those things. Whereas if you think about this from a 12-month point of view, what over the next 12 months are you going to do? What's your content? How can you strategize around that? Be really, really clear. Don't just go head off and just write any old thing, because that's where it doesn't work. You'll either run out of steam or it just won't resonate with your customers, okay? Step number 2 is, again, obvious. Create good content. Now, the competition for great content out there is tough, right? Think about YouTube as a classic example. There are hundreds of hours of content uploaded to YouTube every second. Some of it's great, some of it's awful, some of it's quite mediocre. The great content tends to be the content that gets discovered. Now, that doesn't mean it's the most expensive. It doesn't mean it's, crazily high figures on production. That's not what I'm saying. It's the most thought out content that makes sense for the people that want to watch it, okay? Think to yourself, is what I want to do, is what I want to create going to be valuable and relevant to the person listening, to the person reading, to the person watching? Is it going to be valuable and relevant, okay? And use that as your basis. Okay, use it as your basis and think to yourself, is this content going to raise awareness of solutions that the customers didn't even know about? Am I going to educate them on an idea, a product or a service that's really going to help them, stuff they've not even considered before? So how does this work for an e-commerce website, right? Really great question. For me, there are some really obvious places where you can put some really great content. Number 1 is going to be on product landing pages. So this is where you're doing a specific landing page for a product with a marketing campaign. And because it's a landing page, you can do longer form content on this page. It needs to be entirely customer focused. It's not what you think that's cool. It's what's going to help the customer. Okay. Make it relevant to them. That's the critical part, right? What does this product solve? What problem does it solve for the customer? How's it going to transform them? What do they need to do next? Has it got a clear call to action, right? An excellent landing page will quickly translate into conversions because the content on it is good content, okay? So think about your product landing pages. Think about your product pages. So these are just the general product pages that people come to on the e-commerce website. And there are 3 things that I think, well, there's going to be more, right? But let's focus on 3 key things that I think you can do to a product page that's going to make the content really zing for your customers, especially if you're trying to compete against people like Amazon. Number 1 is going to be like how-to videos. So you can do the how-to videos. You can shoot them on your iPhone these days. You don't need expensive gear. But shoot a video that shows how that particular product can be used or worn, or what are the benefits of that product? How is it going to help the customer transform into whatever they're transforming into? Right? How is it valuable and relevant to them? Your customers will definitely watch the videos to better understand the product. So do put videos on there. And again, a top tip here is if you're going to do videos where there's talking, where you're doing narration, for example, or you're doing a product demonstration, put subtitles on the video as well. You can do that quite easily with YouTube, just because people watch videos in silence, right? A lot of people watch content on their phone, maybe when they're on the train or wherever. You'll be amazed how many videos are watched in silence. So make sure it's understandable if people are not listening to the audio. That's a key thing, okay? The second thing I think you can do with your product page is product reviews. Product reviews are great. Encourage your customers to write them, because they're going to write all kinds of amazing stuff in those reviews. What they found worked well for them, what they didn't like, tips and tricks they found, what their thoughts are. This is all amazing content. Amazon now claim that over 90% of people read the reviews before buying the products. Okay, so it's this independent user-generated content, which really is going to help give credibility to your products that people are going to love. So reviews are absolutely critical to your product page. Get them on there, get your customers to write them. And the third form of content that we've found works really, really well on product pages is FAQs. So this is where a customer or potential customers reading about a product, and they've read your page, but they've got a few questions in their head that have, for whatever reason, has not been totally answered on the product page. It may be that is not the information that answers the question. It may be that they've just not read it, right? But it's fascinating to me how many people actually will read the FAQs, right? When you're buying a product, think about it yourself. Amazon are great at this. If you go to an Amazon site, when you buy a product, you're often reading those questions just because you're kind of going, well, is that a question that's relevant to me as the customer? And so putting FAQs on there is brilliant. It's, again, user-generated content. You're answering very specific questions customers will have, which is just, well, when we say create good content, tip number 2, let me tell you, that is good content, okay? So do that. The other great thing that you can do with your reviews and your FAQs is you can use them to generate your own content ideas, right? So if there's a question that customers are asking over and over again, well, that could be a blog post or a series of blog posts that you put up on your website, or a series of videos, however you do your content. They'll tell you what they're caring about. They'll use specific phrases and questions that address their concerns. The more you can read that and understand that, the better your content's going to be. And reviews and FAQs are a great source of ideas for you to generate high engagement content. You can also use that same thinking on social media. What are they writing in social media? What are they putting in there? Could you create some content that would help them understand how to solve that problem or address that concern, right? So it's really straightforward to do. Good content comes from research. And when it comes to e-commerce, doing stuff like that on our product pages is really, really going to make them stand out and sing in terms of content, okay? Tip number 3 is be committed to your content schedule, right? With content marketing, you are definitely playing a long game, and a long game means commitment and it means consistency. Think about content marketing as running a marathon versus running the 100-meter sprint. You are running the marathon, right? You are in it for the long haul. And if there's one thing that I can tell you about content marketing, if you do your research and deliberately create good content for your customers, and you're consistent in doing that, you have got a much better shot of your content marketing working. If you just create good content sporadically, okay, it might help people that actually come to your website, but it won't necessarily draw people in. It may or may not work. If you create bad content consistently, again, you're going to be a bit hit and miss. But if you can do good content and do that content consistently, you are really, really helping yourself. So really make sure that you're committed to creating consistent content. So for me, let's take this podcast, for example. Well, this podcast is, each podcast episode comes out of research. It comes out of understanding the customer and knowing what the key concerns and problems are. Just questions I get asked all the time. And I kind of go, well, let's do a podcast around that. That's great. And I've got to commit to doing that content on a weekly basis. If I start doing one podcast one week and then it's 3 weeks to the next one, well, that just doesn't work, right? So consistency is key. I'm going to say it one more time because I really need this to be drummed into your thinking. Remember this key point, right? Consistency is key to great content marketing. So tip number 4 is be deliberate about distributing content. What I mean by this is it used to be that you could put something up and people would find it. It just was the way it was back when there was 5 people on the web. But now the amount of content which is being uploaded, the amount of businesses which are using content to try and drum traffic, there is so much content out there that it's becoming slightly overwhelming, right? So people aren't necessarily just going to stumble across what you've done. Instead, you've got to be deliberate and intentional about how you distribute the content and get it in the right forms on the right platforms to the right audience so that you get the engagement that you want, okay? So for example, if you've got a strategy which says, you know what, I'm going to put blogs on my websites or case studies or reviews, which is all great. Well, how are people going to read those? How are people going to find them, right? What are people going to do to read those? Now, one of the problems or one of the key issues people have when it comes to creating content or doing content marketing is they hear all the benefits and go, yes, that's fantastic. I really want to do that. But then this feeling of dread and overwhelm appears quite rapidly when they think about the sheer amount of content that they feel like they have to create. So what I do, let's take this podcast as an example, right? So what I do is we do the research, we figure out what the podcast topic is going to be, we outline the podcast, and then I come into the studio, record it, or we'll record it with a guest or an expert, and we try and add a bit of entertainment in there as well. We do the news, which is a bit of fun, but also informative, okay? And that's our podcast. So I then take that podcast, we have the podcast transcribed, which then creates for us the blog post. So I don't have to write necessarily the blog post. The very fact that I'm talking into a microphone and recording it means I'm putting words out somewhere. So I can take the audio from that podcast, get it transcribed, and it becomes a blog post with very minimal editing. Okay, I can then take that audio and we can cut that up into snippets, and that creates the quotes for social media. You get what I'm saying, right? You can create one piece of content and cut it up into the various formats that make sense for where you're trying to promote it. So I don't just put the podcast up and hope it's discovered. I create the podcast based on a research, and I then use the blog on my website from an SEO point of view that drives traffic to my website. So transcribing it's great, writing the show notes is great. It's great for you, obviously, to go and get those show notes, but it's also helping me from an SEO point of view. And like I say, we then take that content and we cut that down, and that gives me all the content I need then for social media and that engagement. So don't feel overwhelmed by the amount of content you can create. You can be quite clever in repurposing and reusing content that you create, so you don't feel like you're on this constant treadmill of having to create content. But do be deliberate about distributing it and promoting it. Okay, it's the top way of getting people to read it and to engage with it. You can do it through Facebook ads. There's all kinds of ways that you can do it. Try them all. Figure out what works for you. Okay, so let me just summarize. Number one, define your content strategy. Number two, make sure you're creating good content, which comes from research and user-generated content on your e-commerce website. Be committed, number three, to your content schedule. And number four, be deliberate about promoting and distributing that content to get people coming to it. Getting the content right is vital for driving traffic to your site and generating leads. Oh my goodness, do I know this? Creating that content is going to be valuable for the customer and relevant to them, and it helps them build your trust in the brand, or helps them build trust in your brand. Let me get that the right way around. And then you get more engagement, more sales, and a much better website as a bottom line. Okay, so I hope you found this useful. They're my 4 top strategies, 4 top tips. It's how we do it here. And you can use this same strategy if you're like me on the e-commerce side of things. You're selling digital products. Well, that's e-commerce. So we're selling courses. We use content marketing to draw people in, and hopefully that makes them aware of what we're doing. We use it on our e-commerce sites. Every site we do, we use content marketing as a strategy. But with every site, I'm clear on what that strategy is, how we find good content, and how we distribute that content, and what our schedule for that content looks like, right? For every single business. So make sure you follow that pattern, because I know it works. Hope you've got something out of this. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. It's free, and the show is full of great stuff about how to set up, run, and grow your own e-commerce business, even if I do say so myself, which of course I do. So make sure you subscribe to keep up to date. We can, of course, connect on social media. Why not? It's a beautiful thing, right? So head on over to any social media platform, like Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. Just search for Matt Edmundson. That's EDMUNDSON, and hopefully you will find me. I'm a big fan of Instagram, so certainly connect with me on that if you're on it. And like I said earlier, all of the show notes, which will help me from an SEO point of view, but help you, are on the website, along with links to the sponsor, along to my links to social media as well. So you can just connect with me straight on there. Just head on over to mattedmundson.com and you will see those. So thanks for listening. Hope you've got something out of this week. Make sure you come back next week as we talk more about e-commerce. Until next time.
You've been listening to the Curiosity Podcast with Matt Edmundson. Subscribe and join us next time as we carry on conversations about all things e-commerce and digital business.